The subcommittee will come to order. We're pausing just a moment, hoping Mr. Doggett might arrive soon. So we know he's on his way, but we'll get started because we know we're going to be bumping up against votes here in the next hour and a half or so. So we want to move ahead and welcome all of our witnesses today. This hearing is on improving the safety net, better coordinating today's maze of programs to ensure families receive real help. Today's hearing is the third in the series this summer. It's set around the theme of reforming programs designed to assist low-income Americans in going to work and climbing the economic ladder. Our first hearing highlighted how not working or working less than full-time is the number one cause of poverty. Despite this fact, the complex interaction between welfare programs often actively discourages work. A few programs designed to help those in need expect recipients to work, train for a job, or look for work. As one of our witnesses testified, instead of help finding a job when she received benefits, the local welfare office offered far less. And in her words, they offered just a check. And that's not nearly enough, as all of us on the panel know and all of us here in the committee recognize. Our second hearing showed how the federal government spends $15,000 per person below the poverty line each year on low-income programs, yet most programs cannot demonstrate that their spending results in better outcomes for low-income families. Again, that's just not good enough. Today's hearing will review how the current maze of over 80 low-income programs is poorly coordinated and doesn't lift low-income families with children out of poverty for the long run. As we will hear, our state partners have a number of ideas about how we can improve this system so more programs pull in the same direction of helping low-income Americans work and earn more. The good news is such steps have been tried and shown to have positive results before. For example, in the 1980s and early 1990s, states tested things like increased work incentives, activity requirements, sanctions, and time limits. Drawing on the lessons learned from those waiver demonstrations, reforms were then made part of the 1996 welfare reforms, and they worked to increase work and earnings and reduce poverty and benefit dependence. Bad news is that the scale of what is required next. As one of our witnesses, Clarence Carter of Arizona, notes in his testimony, the department he heads oversees 40 different safety net programs, each with its own objectives, its own rules, and its own funding. Not surprisingly, these dozens of programs function separately, even though they strive to serve many of the same people in need. It's often said that no one would design a system like this. Yet every year we dutifully operate this system. We tolerate its poor outcomes, and including too much waste of time and its inefficiency and ultimately too much human suffering. We are here today to ask you if there is a better way, and I think you're going to provide us with some insight on new ideas. Is there a better way to serve those in need, to support work and upward mobility, and to engage low-income adults in activities that lead to self-efficiency? The key question is not how much we spend, even though taxpayers now spend about $1 trillion on those programs every year. Instead, the key question is whether we and or our state partners can find better ways to achieve real results for those people who need help. I think we can, and I am encouraged that we have serious and seasoned experts with us today to help us think through these critical questions. This week's headlines remind us of what's at stake. The Associated Press reported Monday that 4 out of 5 U.S. adults struggle with joblessness, near poverty, or reliance on welfare for at least part of their lives. Set against this reality are the programs we are talking about today, which are simply not doing enough to head off poverty and financial insecurity or help people get back on their feet quickly when difficulties arise. We should expect and deliver more. I look forward to all of your testimony, and usually at this time Mr. Doggett would offer a statement, but I think we can reserve that, and when Mr. Doggett arrives, we'll allow him to make his statement. So without objection, we can move on. I want to remind our witnesses to limit their oral testimony to 5 minutes. However, without objection, all of the written testimony will be made a part of the permanent record. And on our panel this afternoon, we'll be hearing from Eloise Anderson, Secretary, Wisconsin Department of Children and Families; Clarence Carter, Director, Arizona Department of Economic Security; Michelle Sadler, Secretary, Illinois Department of Human Services; Larry Woods, Chief Executive Officer, Housing Authority of Winston-Salem. I also want to mention that without objection, each member on the committee will have the opportunity to submit a written statement and to have it included in the record. So, Ms. Anderson, you're first up, recognized for 5 minutes.